Hi, I'm Ben, and today we're going to be identifying the lineages in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. Ever since I did the Identify for the Unearthed Arcana Gothic lineages, which I will link up above, I have been so excited for the final release of these lineages. It seems that Wizards of the Coast has been learning from Paizo's heritage and ancestry system and attempted to do something similar in Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. And now that these lineages are official, I just kind of wanted to go through and touch up on what the changes are and also workshop some interesting builds for each of these lineages. We will actually see that in the grand scheme of things, not a lot has been changed. However, it is much more clear how lineages work, and there is a key feature added to each one in the form of Ancestral Legacy. This trait reads as follows. If you replace your race with one of these lineages, you can choose to keep any skill proficiency you would gain from it, and also any flying, climbing, or swimming speed you would gain. Otherwise, or if you choose this lineage at first level, you gain proficiency in 2 skills of your choice. This is a really interesting and much needed ability. This makes it really clear how lineages work. You can either choose this at first level and have to gain those 2 skill proficiencies, or this can be given through the course of a campaign as either a reward or some strange curse or cost. This is also a buff to the lineages if you are choosing them at level 1. Adding 2 free skill proficiencies is pretty dang solid and is a lot of what makes up Half-Elf, which is one of the strongest races in the game. And considering the fact that none of these lineages really changed, this really amps up the power level of each of them. In fact, personally, I believe that they all pretty much sit in the same power level as Half-Elf in one way or another. Even if the opportunity for interesting builds varies pretty significantly between each of the lineages, I still think they each bring enough power to the table to be a really meaningful choice. And on top of that, they are each just gushing with character backstory questions waiting to be answered. And they all have really handy tables as well that really get your imagination flowing as to why this character is the way they are. I'll actually go through each of the lineages individually backwards because the Reborn went through the least amount of changes. In fact, the only change that I can really see is that they removed Construct or Undead from your creature types, which I can only assume is because of the weirdness that it caused with healing. They did the same thing with Dhampir, which we'll get to later. And then obviously they added Ancestral Legacy to the traits. And now that this lineage is official, I can say without a doubt that having a Reborn in the party is a huge boon. They have all sorts of features that are incredibly useful to the party. I mean, even just from Deathless Nature, not needing to be unconscious during sleep, meaning they can keep watch the whole night. Having advantage on death saving throws is incredibly good. Advantage on saves against poison is nice, and resistance to a damage type is always helpful. But the real crazy benefit you're going to get out of being a Reborn is knowledge from a past life. Being able to add a d6 to any ability check that requires a skill for free, no action required, is insane. Just from this book, if you are a Reborn College of Spirits Bard, you can increase your average roll on a skill you're proficient in by +10 just at level 3. So let's break that down a little bit. Let's say you're a Reborn with 16 Charisma and you are proficient in the Persuasion skill. That means your average roll is about 15.5. Now, a College of Spirits Bard who's expertise in the skill, guidance, bardic inspiration, and uses this ability can bring up their average to 26. A Reborn College of Spirits Bard isn't just a skill monkey, they're a skill master. But this ability isn't just good for min-maxing, it is also good for shoring up important skill checks that you know you rolled bad on. And for that, I think the Reborn is really, really useful. Besides that, I also think this is the lineage that you are most likely to see past level 1 if your party doesn't have Revivify or wasn't able to for some reason, and you are looking for a darker way to bring one of your party members back to life. The Hexblood actually saw a little bit more in the way of changes, as Magic Token has now been split up into 3 different traits, which honestly just makes it all much easier to understand. However, they also got rid of the Fey Resilience ability. So now no longer will the Hexblood have advantage on saves to avoid or end the charm's condition on themselves. I think the switch for Ancestral Legacy is totally fair there, and Fey Resilience did mean that they kind of stepped on the toes of Elf and Half-Elf just a little bit. However, they didn't change the flavor text of Hexblood either, so their flavor text still says that they become Hexbloods to help protect them against the tricks of the Fae and things like that, but that isn't shown in any of their traits. And it does kind of feel like there is a bit of a hole missing, especially because every other Fae akin race we have in D&D has some kind of Fae ancestry feature. That being said, the Hexblood does have some nice utility to it. I don't know how crunchy the features are. Hex Magic is still a really good feature. I mean, Disguise Self and Hex are still really good spells, and just like I said in the Unearthed Arcana video, the Hexblood is best for classes that want a lot of attacks, so it's still very good on a Warlock. It's good on Circle of Wildfire Druid, or anybody who gets Scorching Ray, Magic Missile, those kinds of things, as well as Monks or Rangers. And lastly, my personal favorite, and I think the most interesting, the Dhampir. Just like the Reborn, they have lost their extra creature types, being only humanoid. There is also finally clarification on their vampiric bite ability, and just like I suspected, when you attack with it, you can use your Constitution modifier instead of your Strength modifier for the attack roll and damage. This ancestry did not see any trade for the Ancestral Legacy feature, and I think that definitely makes it the best of the 3. I mean, you move faster, at 3rd level you can climb on walls, you get a special bite attack that can regain hit points. However, the bite is in a unique spot. Since it is Constitution instead of your Strength modifier, you're kind of in a weird place when you want to use it, because you are never going to be using your primary ability stat. And crunching the numbers, you can actually make a fairly unique build based off of this bite attack. I hate to say it, but this lineage actually really benefits from going Kensai Monk. There is a bit of a stipulation here, because the Vampiric Bite is a natural weapon, but it's also treated as a simple melee weapon, which you are proficient with. This means you cannot flurry of blows with it. However, it does qualify as a monk weapon for you, meaning you can use your dexterity instead of any other ability to make attacks with it. Furthermore, that also means its damage dice scales, which will be very useful. And when I detail the rest of this build, the main goal is to find ways to increase the damage that specifically the bite is dealing in piercing damage, so that if you wanted to use it for either of its empowered abilities, you would get the most bang for your buck. And so a level 20 build might look something like this. The build starts with 11 levels of Monk. This gets your martial arts die to a D8. It also gets you the Sharpen the Blade Kensai ability, which allows you to make your fangs magical. You already overcome resistance because you're a Kensai, and furthermore you get the Death Strike ability, which will add another D8 onto your damage for a key point. We also go 3 levels of Battle Master. The fighting styles won't help too much, however, Action Surge will be very nice. And furthermore, what we're really after here is the maneuvers, because they add directly to the damage of your weapon attack. You then spend your last levels between a Hexblade Warlock and a Ranger. The Ranger archetype can vary depending on what you're trying to do. Hunter is good for this, and so is Gloomstalker. You really only need 1 level in Hexblade, and you are just after Hexblade's Curse. This will be very, very helpful as 1, it increases your crit range on a specific target, and furthermore, once you are this high of level, it will be adding a +6 to your damage. Now, Ranger is a bit of a tough one. You definitely want to go 3 levels, you want to have that spell casting, you want to have Hunter's Mark, depending, it's up to your DM whether that extra damage is caused by Hunter's Mark or if it is added to the bite. But otherwise, either Gloomstalker or Hunter will give you an extra D8 on your weapon damage die. All of this can add together to you dealing 3d8 plus 1d6 plus 14 damage and healing that amount if it is empowered. And depending how quickly you want to burn through your key points, you can do this 6 times. And just as a reminder, this all started with a weapon that dealt a D4 damage. Now, the action economy there is tricky, but if you have a turn or 2 to set up before you initiate combat, then you will be able to rush in on your first turn dealing that kind of damage. And I think that's part of why Dhampir is my favorite as well, is it was such a fun time to try to look at its abilities and find a unique way to use it in a crazy way. But all in all, looking at these lineages, they really didn't change a whole lot from their UA versions, and a lot of what I said in that video still holds true. That being said, I really love what they've done with these lineages, and I hope this is not a Ravenloft exclusive. I would love to see more lineage options given in the future, adding new flexible options, not only as a player trying to find a new unique build to play, but also as a DM, as these can be given out as rewards or as consequences for your actions in play. As a DM, these get me so excited about new paths that can take my characters down, giving them the option, if they want to be transformed by a hag to finally get their wish. Or perhaps if they die, there is a new and unique way to bring them back that isn't just spending a diamond's worth of gold and hoping you can get to them within a minute. How do you feel about these lineages, though? Let me know in the comments down below. Do you think you like them where they are, or did you prefer how they were in the UA? Do you wish they were buffed or debuffed? Please let me know. I love to hear your thoughts. If you made it this far in the video, I can't tell you how much that has already helped us out so much. But if you want to go that extra mile, leaving a like or commenting really helps us out. And if you like the kind of content we do here, please consider subscribing. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you on your next short rest. I wanted to thank all of our supporters on Patreon, Painted Sky, Faizana Mod, and Robert Allen Klaus III. Thank you so much. I can't tell you how much we appreciate it.